glad I took the long road. Shortcuts to the game, that's a no-no. Least traveled on my journey, I'm alone, so dark times got me glow. Everything I needed was on this path, I swear I never cheated. Pushing for a reason. So many times I fell, but I got back on my feet, so that's why I'm undefeated.
Look, the sun through the shades, very blinding, awake in the haze. I'm baking the rays, the temperature is cooking the blaze. I'm searching for shade, the heat, it continues to debate. I'm constantly, casually counting all the moves I will make. I'm dodging my fate as I sip in eternals from late. I've fallen a couple of times, but I never will break. The industry's fake, so it's time I come and create. I conquer and shake, innovate, then humble the grace. I'm making my space, and I'm taking what's rightfully mine. Spoke on the shrines, I focus on my cheaters inside, suffering while I'm mustering every lyrical line. My music.
And we're live, streaming from the footsteps of New York City. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and we're delighted you can join us for our unique podcast community where we explore the issues and challenges in the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. Thank you for helping us grow as a community. We recently hit 1,365 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you. Help us to keep growing by smashing that bell, the subscribe button, and smashing the bell icon for the most up-to-date information on upcoming guests and topics. To see our library of 135 past episodes, go on our website at www.jasontram.net. You can also check out our upcoming guests. We've got leaders from the artistic community, from opera singers at the Metropolitan Opera, to instrumentalists, to rap artists, to independent rock bands, you name it, we talk about it on Music Matters. So thank you so much for joining us. And we have a great guest today. We have Mr. Ian Carr, Emaculant, a rap artist, independent rap artist whose music is making some real interesting noise on Spotify, social media, YouTube. His music's being heard all over. We're delighted you can join us. Welcome, Emaculant.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
From the state of Florida, how are things down there today?
Pretty good. It's warm. Yeah, that's the good thing in Florida.
Always warm, always sunny.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I really am excited to talk about your music and your life, and you're doing some great work. And so tell us about what it's like to be an independent rap artist today.
It's pretty much, as you know, everything shifts. So, as you know, back in the day, early 90s, 2000, with CDs and everything moved over to streaming the last couple of years. So
I remember those days.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the double side cassette tapes to the CDs. Yeah, and now it's not about more like album sales. It's mostly about streams. So you have to make that adjustment, which you just as you go along, you make those adjustments.
So let's go back and talk about your story. You have a great story. I read your bio on this. I found out about you through Reverb Nation, and I really I have over 5,000 people to look at all these wonderful artists, and your story came very interesting to me, as you come from a musical family. Your mom was an opera singer and a composer, and your dad was a poet and an engineer. And
yes.
So tell us about your upbringing in music and how that's helped you along the way.
Sure, definitely. Yeah, I mean, growing up, was born in Washington State. So growing up, my mom sang opera. She also had a master's in music and education. So, along the way, she was taught us about music, about the melodies, about, playing different instruments, notes. So, growing up, you hear just singing in the house, different songs and things like that all day long. So you get curious, of course. And my dad used to write poetry a lot, on the side, while he's an engineer. So it was just pretty much indebted to me from the beginning,
I love to hear that, an engineer with a artistic side, at both sides of the brain.
Exactly. It's definitely a big thing, and moving over to the East Coast, that's pretty much where I was. My whole style developed, of course, from moving over to the East Coast from the West Coast when I was little.
So you said you grew up in Philly. What was like in Philly when you were growing up, and what did you remember?
Pretty much a lot. I remember moving over there when I was from the West Coast and didn't do too much fashion when I was younger. So I moved over there and I had to get in their case school to the game on what to wear and certain things to do. And I started playing basketball heavy then, which helped me get into different communities and cliques and things like that, and helped me get into a lot of the music as well. So I actually started doing music heavily, writing. Doing like underground music with like forums. Back in the day online, didn't have a whole lot of places to go. So I had like there's Cannabis Central, And so I used to go down there and, you do key styles and really things, but it helped me grow a lot initially when I was younger because, people can break down what you're writing and what you're saying. So that's pretty much how I started to evolve my music at that point.
Now, how do you come up with your lyrics? How do you come up with what you're going to rap about? What is your process for that?
Well, mostly like my content, of course, comes from a lot of life experiences or, my views on certain things, of course, which is to me how I was bred, from up north, you speak about things that are around you, not really in a sense like my music. I try not to never talk about music. I mean, about money or cars or women or things like that, fame. It's mostly be, things where I can influence, I want to talk about things that everyone can relate to. And if you telling your story, you can inspire others, of course, because they can look at it and anybody's story, some part of it, someone can, relate to.
I'm always fascinated with independent artists because, the record industry wants to promote a plastic artist who is this fake person who's not real. It's not really who they are. It's an actor playing a role, and it's kind of like if you see the Ferrari and the women and all this stuff, and it's that plastic kind of image. I like the independent artists. People find and they relate to independent artists based on who they really are and the message they're sending. So. Right. How hard is it to become an independent artist today, and what has that taught you about your music?
I think it's especially right now, it's very hard because you got to look pretty much coming outside the box. So when I moved to Florida initially, from when I was up north, and I dealt with a lot of artists up there. I had a manager named Keith Owens who helped me get into the music business when I was in Philadelphia. So he had me get a couple songs like Beanie Siegel and Journalist, things like that. Well, I didn't know anything about the music business, so I didn't know about masters and things like that. So when I moved to Florida, I linked up with a very talented artist, local artist named Absolute, who actually showed me the ropes and everything, like about the music, about owning your masters, about you could be your own person, and we started As I Am Records, which is come as you are as an artist, like how it's supposed to be back in the day. So especially nowadays, you really gotta believe in who you are and what you're doing. You can't really look at, okay, how many, people, like view my music or like my music just because of, I'm, talking about cars and women, but be who you are, be a true person, talk about what your views and your passions, and people respect that. People really love that. And, that's doing that. I mean, we tell anybody, independent artists all the time is, you want to, put songs out and put the music out, as you produce it. And be real with yourself. Be real with what you're talking about, and people love that. People can cater to that.
Yeah, I think that's the essence of the indie artist today is real. It's finding truth, is being yourself. And that's where you build your audience. And you've built a nice audience on Reverb Nation and Spotify. What's it like to watch your audience grow and to connect with them?
Oh, it's good. It's really good. I mean, it's a good feeling to know that you're touching other people out there, other artists. I mean, a lot of times, I mean, for the most part, I mean, people reach out all the time. They appreciate the music. And I do the same as well. It's to me, it's a community. We're a community, so we got to support each other as well. So I go and I'll listen to music, support, get my feedback, things I like and don't like, things like that, and it helps us grow as artists as well and people.
Who were some of the artists that inspired you growing up, especially in Philly?
Definitely. Cannabis was pretty much my main one. He actually, I was actually working with him a little bit as well. Actually have a song out called Pinecomb, which we did a dual song together on there. But yeah, he was my inspiration just because lyrically, the layers he can do, and he's the one who taught me layers of music. You put in different layers, so it's not just surface. A lot of people surface rhyme, so it's like a basic thought as opposed to getting deep into that thought. So he taught me that. So and it helped my music as well. And he told us read every day. Increase your vocabulary, which helps you with more rhyming words.
Speaking of increasing your vocabulary, Emaculant. What does that mean to you, and why did you pick that name as your stage persona?
Definitely. Well, Immaculate, was like flawless. So my perception of that is flawless in your own mind, because we're all flawless. So there is no definition that someone can put on yourself. You're always flawless, whatever you do. So whatever you put out, whatever you say, it's your interpretation. So there is no book on your own interpretation. So that's the reason why I picked that name.
And how many years have you been working under that name?
About 12 years since I moved to Florida, and started working with Absolute.
Well, it's working well for you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So tell us now, you've had in your bio it says you've had some hardships in life. How has that helped you, and how has that manifested in your music?
A lot. I mean, growing up, of course, when I left the West Coast, my father had got a job. He was working for Boeing, so as an engineer. We moved to Philadelphia. He passed away. So I was about 11, 12 years old. My mom, pretty much wasn't around at that point. So I was like, living in the streets, car, stuff like that. And it helped my perception. So, growing up, we grew up pretty well. Like, I grew up pretty wealthy when my father was alive. So it helped me, like realize things, be thankful for things, but also helped my drive and passion. So I got into working out and bodybuilding, playing basketball, stuff like that, just to keep my mind over things. And it helped me with my lyrics as well, because it just brought out that passion. So it's more like, I can, when you're saying anything out loud and you have a passion for it, it's true. And people can believe that, they can lean on it, as opposed to saying, I'm this and that, and I have nothing to do with that. It comes from the heart.
Having that, having those, and triumphing or finding a way to deal with those really tough times, that manifests in yourself in your music, and it gives a depth to things, I think, as a person too.
Definitely, it definitely does. Yeah, I guess that's the reason why, I always, I link myself with a lot of people like that, like besides the cannabis, like the DMX and, the Nas, like, and you listen to the music, you listen to the passion, and it's a whole nother level to it, and then you can relate, and then it helps you, with your writing. So a lot of times when I write as well, sometimes I listen to my older tracks or some music from them, and it helps you, get inspired.
Did you know, even in the dark times, that being creative and being an artist was going to help you on the other end?
No, not really. I mean, I think it was a lot of times I did a lot of things just to keep my mind off of things, or, it's more like people have a journal and just want to write things down. It helps you get off your chest and, move on with your day. And, as I started doing that over and over again, it just became like, very interesting to me. Like, oh, I love writing. I was writing for years before I even, picked up a microphone and recorded anything.
I know that that sports and music have always been a doorway for people to get themselves up in the world. And how did sports get you to that next level?
Definitely. I mean, especially growing up, I mean, playing basketball in high school, things like that. And it was funny because I pretty much went to college pretty much for a place to stay at that point. So I went to Newman College, I had, somewhere to stay, roof over my head, where I met my old manager, Keith Owens, to help me into the music business. And he showed me other options like getting overseas. So that's why I played basketball overseas for a year. And coming back, help my insight, help a lot of my pain and passion, things like that. And when I came back to Philadelphia, I started boxing under Cliff Johnson. Went pro from there. I actually did pretty well as well. And I think if I didn't have the avenue going into the music industry and then moving to Florida, I think I probably would have stuck to boxing like full time, 100%. But it helped me with that discipline. You got to get up, you got to train. And I was doing that my whole life as an athlete. And growing up, all my like old trainers would say, you want to manifest that in all the other parts of your life. So in your relationships, in your music, whatever you do, let that trickle over. So that way you have that discipline and have that passion, and it sticks like that. It stays that way.
Boy, the word discipline in music, and I know I've met and I've worked with a few professional athletes along the way, and I'm just amazed by how hard it is. But the music requires a ton of discipline too. How does that translate one to the other?
Well, it pretty much like as like getting up and just exercising and just getting that mindset. I think to me, it's like I tell people all the time, like even like working out, it's to me, I don't believe in like personal trainers, things like that, because you got to have a passion for you. You have to have a reason to get up in the morning as opposed to someone pushing you. So like when I write music, there's a reason why I do it. I love it. And so it drives me in the morning. I'm up 5 o'clock in the morning, like, I have to write this, or let me make this new song. Let me listen to the new, a new beat, and maybe, put together another song, something else that inspires. So I think they correlate together very well, actually.
Yeah, I think that discipline, being a musician, requires nonstop thinking and practice and writing and editing, and then you get to the studio, and that's a whole different level of work. When did you first get to the studio in your life, and what was it like learning how to do that and getting comfortable with making your music come alive?
Definitely. I was pretty much my first real in studio. I would say 2000, I think 4. First time I really got in the studio, and it was big. It was a big difference because I had to change the way I wrote my music a little bit. So way I wrote was little bit different than how I was recording at the time. So you're in the studio and you start to record, and a lot of artists are what they call deftones. So they're off beat and everything else. So when I started writing, my lyrics and things were off beat. So I had to learn and do that. And of course, when you're in there, you gotta you get that, some people get like that stage fright, or, you don't want to mess up. You want to sound great. You don't want to have too many takes. And then, as you go along, you start realizing like, sometimes you maybe have a couple more takes, or, but you want to make sure the end product is great. You don't worry about, as you're going through.
Yeah, it's a lot of hours, right? I've had a lot of bands on here, the retakes, the constant editing. Once you put it out there, it's the world's. And you listen back. When you listen back to your old recordings, I always tell my students, I teach at a college, that music's like an amber that captures everything that's around it. What's it like when you listen to your music? Do you capture your memories, that all the things that happened in the studio and maybe that were going on in your life?
Yes, definitely. And it's funny because exactly what you're saying. When you start listening to like older music, older songs, it takes you back to that time. You remember where you were at when you were recording, why you made that song. And I do that a lot. Like a lot of times I listen to my older music, which is a lot of my mentors would tell me to do. He's like, listen to your old music, keep that, because usually the older music keeps you that fire. So you ever listen to someone's first couple of tracks and they have so much passion and vigor in it, and then later on down the road, maybe sometimes they lose that fire and passion, and you look back and it's not as hard or it's not as strong as the old one. So my mentors say, always listen to those old songs, not just yours, even songs that inspired you, to keep that fire. So, but yeah, it's huge, like listening to old songs.
I think it's important too to kind of remind yourself where you came from and to constantly to grow, because as an artist, we're always growing. So what are some of the topics that you've dealt with in your music, and has that evolved over your years in the business?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things that, just dealing with like, not dealing with like selling out to the majors, like not worried about, trying to sign a big contract. Not, I think the hardest thing is to stay true to who you are and your true form, not really like, because I mean, I could have, a long time ago talked about cars and women and money like most artists do, as opposed to staying true to myself. And, I think those are the hard struggles that you deal with. And then as your fans start to build and as people start listening to music and start, you start getting compliments, it helps you, with that confidence and, that, okay, I can inspire people with what I really want to do, and it's huge. I mean, even the sponsors over the years, I mean, right now, just like I signed a, contract deal under a record label at Driscoll Records. Actually, they're based in New York. And right now I'm a influencer with Positivity Pays under Absolute. So it's a lot of, like we tell people, there's a lot of things out there, a lot of people that really love that kind of music. They want to hear real music. They're not, in particular want to hear about cars and money and things, things that's like,
it's fun, but it's at the surface, right? It's at the surface. It doesn't scratch as a person below that.
Exactly. And it's, sometimes you don't want to always play dress up. You want to just give who you are,
What are some of your songs in your catalog of pieces that people could explore that really speak to you still, that you're really proud of? What are some of the pieces? Like, you're probably proud of all of them, but what are some of the ones that when you look back, you say, man, I got it right that day?
Definitely. Probably one song, Empowered, really talking about like the music industry and how not to be a puppet, how to be true to yourself, things like that. Probably one of my other latest tracks, Inside View, talking about, the struggle and coming up as an independent artist. Even I have another song coming out, Undefeated, on the 30th, which is under Driscoll Records, which is similar to that one, but it's more in depth on, how you take your struggles and you manifest it and you keep moving with that, and it makes you a better person, is, a better artist. And, songs like that, I think, inspires me, as well as some of the, like my older freestyles, like Passion, the rap and things like that, where it's just, there's no hook, and I'm just coming off like talking about like what happened to me in my lifetime and things like that. Like those things, hold dear to me, I think.
Thanks for sharing that. It really means a lot when you hear artists talk about that, because I'm going to encourage people listening to the show to go check those songs out. It's so much more interesting when you know an artist, when you learn about an artist, then you go back and listen to their music. It really drives it home to me. I really enjoyed listening to your songs and kind of getting to know your music, and then it's always cool to meet the person behind it. So how does your songwriting process go when you're writing music? Do the lyrics come first? Do the beat come first? Or does it change depending on the song?
Yeah, definitely changes. Like sometimes I'll just be walking around and maybe a verse or a line will come up in my head. So sometimes I'll think of a line and then I'll run with it. Or sometimes I'll hear, like, I'll go through instrumentals and I'm like, oh, that, matches something I want to, my style or something that catches my ear. And then I'll sit and write, and I try to write a song a day. So, I mean, right now, maybe I got 4,000 or 5,000 songs in the archives just sitting. But like we tell
that's going to be a long recording session.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, we tell people all the time, like, I guess the what helped me with being an athlete, stuff like that, is always be prepared type thing. So you always want to be prepared. So if someone comes to you tomorrow and an investor and says, hey, I want to work with you, I want to do this, what have you done? And, and you can be like, well, look what I've done with social media. Look what the music I've done. I've got songs already. So it's, I guess I always look at it like, just be prepared just in case. So, that's my process is pretty much, it's hit or miss. It's a cappella or with instrumental.
Now, have you done? Is there a really big rap scene down in Florida, down in near the Orlando area? And do you do a lot of live performances these days?
No, yeah, there's nothing at all really. I mean, I still pretty much work with the same team, my same producer, Jay Sharp at Boynton Beach. My
shout out to your colleagues.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's pretty much the same people. Like when I do things, I drive down that way. So it's not too much going on Orlando wise, but yeah, definitely no shows. I mean, of course, with the pandemic and everything else, there's not much. It's like you said, it's pretty much we can do a lot right now, just sitting and recording and writing. So I mean, that's most of the focus right now. Just trying to set up things, prepare for hoping when things open up. So.
Now, first time in front of a big audience, what was it like, and how has that changed throughout your career?
Oh, I mean, it was big. I think big time was actually in Philadelphia. They call it like South Street, and a lot of people were there, and we had our verses for a song, and it's funny because they take when they know it's your turn coming on, and all eyes are on you, and then the only thing you're thinking of is just do it right, don't mess up, and it's you get the jitters and everything else, and I think as you go on, it's you start believing in your ability. So I think you don't have as much like jitterbugs and everything else. And, you really get into the music. Cause I mean, now initially when I first did it was, I know it was maybe choppy or maybe, you can you can hear the voice a little scary, but as it goes on, I can really implement my passion and everything else in every song.
Well, that's certainly the case for any artist, right? The first time we get up there, there's always those nerves. But I'm telling you, I've been in my business for 25 years as a classical musician and conductor, and I still, backstage, or I get nervous in the rehearsal process. That's when I get nervous, when I start making things happen. But once you get into the music, you get in the zone, you find that kind of rhythm, and it just kind of makes sense.
Yes, yeah, it is. It does. I think it's the same thing as well, because I think I guess you're getting in that preparation mode where it's like, okay, this is getting real. Where it's like, okay, let me make sure I'm doing everything. I don't hit that blank spot when I'm ready to do what I'm doing. So, yeah, it is. It definitely is.
What's it like now? You have to have a team to have any sort of a career in the music business. How important is it having a positive team around you, people who are positive? Because it can be such being a musician can be a lot of negatives, right? There's a lot of rejection, just been part of the business. So how have you built your team, and what does that mean to you?
It's a big deal. I mean, the team, I mean, me and myself and Absolute, we ran through so many artists, so many people doing production and A&R throughout the years. It's crazy. It's, and as you know, it's hard to find people like-minded, and let alone that want to stay on the team and do right. Some people we had that, focused on a lot of the money, and we didn't know until later on, or some people just disappear when we needed them. And it's hard. I mean, even it's hard, even with loved ones, it's, as everyone knows, I mean, there's a lot of times you look back and it's like, oh, you're not making, millions of dollars right now. So it's like, why keep pushing for, just worry about just working, get a job. And it's, it's hard to, to just keep that passion going, I'm going to keep that drive going until that one day that hits. But I tell anybody, teams, it's hard. I mean, most of the time it's small, maybe initially when you come out, but you got to have a great team. I mean, that's big for me, big deal.
These days, building an organic audience is so important for indie artists, but you have more ways to get your music out there than ever before. I think this is the age of the indie artist, because we've seen the record labels kind of shrink and the entertainment industry completely shift. So how has it been like building your audience and kind of and doing it your way?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said. I mean, it's huge now. I mean, because now I don't have to worry about having to go through a major to even put my music out to record. There's so many ways you could do it. So many platforms, like besides your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook, SoundCloud. I mean, there's so many avenues and platforms out there that you can push your music. Even now putting your music out, we tell people, I mean, you can go through Reverb Nation or CD Baby and put your own music up through iTunes and Amazon. You're like, there's so many ways of doing it. I think I love that, and that's the reason why we're advocates and pushing independent artists on, get your, speak your own voice. Don't worry about what the masses are promoting to you. Advertisement is the way you program the public. Don't worry about that. Just, be yourself, and you could do it. You can do it on your own as well.
It's true. This is the age where you can reach out and you have a global audience. What's it like when you get messages from people who respond to your music from all over the world?
Oh, it's great. I mean, even looking at, like, sometimes Spotify hits. I mean, it's like Germany and India and things like that. I actually did a few songs with a great artist in India, B Mac, and
Wow.
he's very talented, very talented. I did a couple songs with him as well, and we keep in touch. And he's in India, and it's great to see that you can touch other people in other parts of the world with your music.
Isn't it amazing how American music has always been like one of our greatest cultural exports, whether it be jazz or blues or rap? It's really been an amazing cultural export, and then to see it come back from another culture is really, I find amazing.
It is. It definitely is, and it's funny too, because it's exactly what you said. I think a lot of times you're thinking, we're like the only people that can really do the music in that kind of level as well, and then we start hearing other people. It's like, wow, like, that's really good. And you're from where? And yeah, it opened my eyes up a lot, especially globally, the global audience, because there's so much talent out there. It's crazy. And I love working with other artists. I mean, our idea is just let's all work together, network. The more we are, the power in numbers.
Well, we're seeing a more increasingly global community. Look at the sports. I mean, look at baseball, look at basketball. Yao Ming playing for the Knicks from back a couple of seasons ago. I mean, I just love seeing the kind of like the talent come in from all over the world. It's pretty awesome.
Yes, it is. Yeah, to me, diversity is huge. I mean, because you put in all these cultures, you blend them together, it only makes you better, to me.
Brings different voices, and I find the same. I work with the players, and I'm always like fascinated I get to conduct in Europe a lot, and it's always fascinating for me to meet my colleagues from all over. I learn something each time I do, even though the music's the same. People are different, the culture's different, and it just kind of you learn more about yourself by going to other places.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And like you said, it opens your mind up. Keeps you honest as well, I think.
And the most important thing for me is always learning. How do you keep yourself engaged? How do you keep yourself learning?
I think it's just to have that notion of there's somebody out there that's working just as hard as you. That's always been my forte. I always, like, growing up, it's you did 10 push-ups, there's somebody out there doing 11, so do 11, do 12, and I guess that it just, like I said, trickled over. So as I started doing music, there's somebody out there that's writing, just got 5,000 music, 10,000 music in the archives, and they got 200 songs, and it's like, that's the idea, just to keep that drive going. Like, I want to leave a legacy. I don't want to just be a, one hit wonder here today, gone tomorrow. I want to be somebody that inspired somebody, that, took music to another level on his own,
Yeah, most important thing I tell everybody is, it's so important that your energy and your preparation, and if you apply that same discipline to anything, you're going to be successful. The way you approach your music, it's great for the young people listening to listen. Discipline. If you want to be a musician, it's going to be discipline. Any artist.
Yes, that is true. I definitely agree with that 100%. I mean, like you said, it trickles over. So, I mean, if you want to be great at being you want to be a great plumber. I mean, you put in the work, you put in the time, anything. You want to be a great cook or own a restaurant, put in the work, learn the steps, things like that, But yeah, if you're disciplined enough, I think, like you said, I mean, I always look at it like, if someone else can do it, you can definitely do it. Why not? Why can't you do it? There's no reason why you can't. They had to start somewhere, as you do too.
It's great advice, my friend. So tell me so we're at such challenging times as a nation, right?
Yes.
How can rap remain relevant and still, what can rap say to America today?
I think it's more of touching on what's really happening, because to me, unfortunately, when we start listening to a lot of the mainstream music that's being pushed to us, they're not talking about what's going on, the struggles that people are going through. You're not, there's no sympathy, no empathy on what's going on, So it's like, to me, a lot of these artists, especially the artists are independent or underground, or some of the even the mainstream artists, hopefully it trickles over. Let's start talking about things that's going on, what's happening. Let's talk about, coming together. Let's talk about helping each other. That's, to me, as you know, music is huge. I mean, that touches everywhere across the planet. That's the only thing that can, like that, in that sense. So why not inspire, as opposed to just go about your day and talk about what, like the label tells you to talk about, the cars, women,
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on right now that we all have to be aware of, and socially. And I think that music has a great way of either bringing people together, telling stories, and I think that that's such an important role for music. And I think rap is at the center of that in a lot of ways.
Yes, it is. I mean, and it's funny because, like you said, especially with the social media, how big it is now, and how big an influence it is, and so how easy music can get out to people. So if you're pushing that wrong message, a lot of people, I mean, people don't look. I tell people all the time, look at what the youth's going to look at, and then think about how they're going to grow up and how they're going to interpret things. It's more about, what are you going to give back to the community? Like I tell people all the time, it's past, about your accomplishments and everything else. What else are you leaving, for the people that's coming up, after you? Are you leaving a good message, a good footprint? And I think a lot of people don't do that in the music industry. They have no problem selling out for whatever amount of dollar or no dollar, the 360 deals, they have. So.
Well, there's always something about making it your way and coming at it your way and then telling your story that's special. I mean, you have to kind of be true to yourself as an artist, and then you can sleep at night and you can really be happy with the work you're producing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's big for me as well, because it's like I can be my own person. I can talk about what I want to talk about. I don't have to succumb to someone saying, okay, well, I need you to talk about this brand new Mercedes Benz, and it's like, but what am I doing with that? I mean, Mercedes does that all the time. They have a commercial for it. What do I need to,
Amen, brother. I know that's the case. Have the social issues going around manifested in your music?
Yeah. I mean, I touch base on a lot of things, especially a lot of people that, that are stuck at home, or, that maybe lost their job, and, things like that. And they don't know where to go from there, to talk about, reinvent yourself. Things happen, but, something's always going to come up, as long as you stay persistent and stay true to yourself and be honest with yourself, you can get through it. But I mean, those are the things that, you think about the Michael Jackson songs, like Man in the Mirror, things like that. These are to us, the kind of songs of music we need right now, where it's like, hey, we're all here, we're all going through this, let's work together, And I mean, I don't see that. I don't hear that a whole lot.
It's a great observation. Who are some of the artists of other genres who greatly inspire you?
Oh, probably. I mean, it was funny because I used to listen to like Garth Brooks actually a lot.
Really?
How he put songs together. I used to love, when I was little, I used to listen to stuff like that a whole lot. Because just his line stanza, putting not just a hook and then a bridge and things like that. It was I love all kinds of music because they give you all types of different types of work, to put together. And to me, like innovation, like evolution of music is that's what it is. It's adding certain avenues of things, like maybe a hip hop artist on a rock type song. That was where I imagine, evolution was. But I love all genres of music, like instrumentals. I mean, things like Japanese type music, things like that. Anime music, things. I listen to those things. It helps me with ideas as well.
Well, certainly, I call it we have this cross-pollination of genres that's huge today, and I hear so often especially on mainstream radio, because I teach undergraduates and I do an introduction to Western music course, and I always like to start with where students are, and students all come in rap, pop, some rock, but lesser these days. And then I've got to teach them about classical music. But I like to say that there was always a pop music of its day. There was always like this art music, and there's always pop music, and the two kind of interchange, and they're kind of like in dialogue with each other throughout history of humanity. So I love the fact that you have this open-minded approach. Have you done a lot of collaborations with musicians of other genres?
Yeah, I have a song. I forgot the name of it. It was actually a girl. She's actually Japanese. I did a song with her, and she was on the hook. And the instrumental, the song itself is more, I would say, like like one of your old like Nintendo games type, like fighting games type music, and it was actually
Fun.
a really good song. Yeah, I got to get the name of the song, but I had worked with her a long time ago, years ago, and I mean I love doing that, you know, because the idea, even B Mac, the guy in India, his kind of music is a little different. It's more, I would say, um, more orchestrate, more orchestra like type music, and it's I like that kind of like outlook on it because it makes you, you know, come at a song different, so you look at it at a different angle, and I love that. It's challenging.
We had an R&B singer on last week, and Ice Gibson, and he was wonderful. I think from anyway, he was from Tennessee. He was from not Nashville, but the other big town. Anyway, great musician, really wonderful singer performer, and we were talking about the how R&B and rap have kind of cross pollinated, and there's a lot of that, like a mainstream. That's almost in every song. Every time you hear a rapper and you hear R&B, it's mixed together. Have you worked with a lot of R&B singers?
Not too much. I mean, I have a few songs with some R&B singers that were like unknown, that do mostly just like hooks wise, nothing more of like they have their own verse and things like that. I think it's for you know, different type of, I guess, flavor of music. So my music mostly is, since it's real lyrical and things like that, it's kind of hard to add that kind of like that flavor to it, like a singer part or a singer, something like that. But you know, for hooks, I have a lot of songs. I have unknown artists on there that sing, yeah, that sing on the hook. And actually, Paradise City, which is one of the big songs, actually got me put on Adjustable Records. That was one of the songs they heard. Is a unknown artist, guy named Stardom, who sung the hook, and it's things like that. You know, they like that, the collaboration. But I think the mix of the song, where it's somebody real, you know, rap, like hardcore old school rap, and that like passive, you know, kind of singing on it, it's really good. I like that contrast.
And do you do pieces? You obviously do pieces alone and with other artists. And do you get to perform live with those other artists? Has that been a part of your what percentage of your time is spent performing live, and what percent of time is spent in the studio? I always wonder these things. I just don't know.
Definitely. Well, it's funny because we actually we don't do too many performances. Actually, the last big one we did, me and Absolute, was we opened up actually for Nipsey Hussle in 2012, and
Oh, nice! Wow.
yeah,
Rest
Star
in peace.
Hotel. And, yes, definitely. And it was funny because at the time he wasn't big, so we heard the name, but we really didn't know it. So yeah, we opened up for him. But other than that, like my partner, Absolute, he pretty much was, the idea was, you don't want to be out there too much. Like, so we don't, you know, I don't drink or smoke, so I don't, you know, we don't go to clubs and things like that. So the idea was to be like, you know, somewhere like shrouded in the background. So when you do come out and do performances, make sure it's meaningful, it's live. So don't, you know, the idea is not do too many. So I would say most of the time it's maybe 95% in the studio, you know, recording songs, things like that. And then if somebody comes to us and say, oh, we need you to perform, things like that, it's a bigger deal for, you know, your audience, your fans that see you live, as opposed to, oh, I seen them last week at that club, or I seen them last week at that club.
Gotcha. So, what was it like working with Nipsey Hussle? What made him special? Did you know he was going to make it big? Or did you say this guy's got something?
No, not really. I mean, I think maybe, you know, we like, and when we performed before him, it was more like, you know, talk, hey, how you doing, things like that. But we didn't think nothing of him. Like it was more like, you know, he was another great artist that was up and coming. You know, at the time we didn't even think it was a big deal. You know, when we opened up for the show, because that was actually our first show we opened up under that label, as Iron Records. So it was more like just getting our feet wet again and getting back into doing performances. But yeah, I didn't really realize he was going to be that big. But when you listen to his music, I loved it. Like even the album he had with The Game, where he's on the album with him, and I love his same idea. He has passion. He's talking about what's going on, you know, with his struggles. Those are the things, you know, anybody can relate with. I mean, it doesn't matter if you grew up poor, if you grew up with a lot of money, you can relate to, because everyone goes through struggles. I mean, it's different kind of struggles, but everyone struggles.
What makes music so powerful is that it deals with when at its best, it deals with universal human themes. Whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, the themes don't change. And when you tap into that and you tell the story, that's what's so powerful.
It is. That's exactly what it is, and that's the idea, and that's where I guess I look at it, like where people are missing that now. You know, a couple of decades ago, that's what it was. It was let's see what's going on in the world. Let's connect. Let's have everyone connect together. You know, we're all dealing with this. We're all dealing, like right now, we're all dealing with pandemic. We're all dealing with staying at home. You know, maybe we're in our loved ones face more often and we're fighting more, stuff like that. Like no
That's
one's
for
addressing
sure, right?
it.
I got
Yeah,
4 kids. I
exactly.
understand that completely.
Exactly. And it's like we don't, it's daily things that everyone deals with. Why not talk about these things as opposed to things that no one really deals with?
Wow, it's been so great to talk to you today. If you could sit down with any artist, living or deceased, in any genre, maybe 2 artists, who would they be? Maybe one in your field and one totally outside the box.
I would say in my field, I would say Rakim. Just to get that pioneer the whole backbone, the backstory of like how he started and everything else. And then I would probably say and another genre. That's a good question. Probably would say
Doesn't have to be
Michael
in music
Jackson.
either. It could be Michael Jackson. Yeah, that'd be fascinating.
Definitely, yeah, definitely Michael Jackson. Because I mean, just the thing. I mean, I remember watching a video where he was doing a solo and just singing and going through the cuts, intakes and outtakes. I just picking his mind to see like where he was at. I mean, he was dealing with so much more than what was on the surface. I just wanted to, I would love to sit down and talk and just see like, how did you get to this point and what were the things you were dealing with?
He was really a genius in the studio too. He would call all the musicians and like tell them exactly what he wanted of each of them. I mean, like there was a guitar player who was talking about the recording of "Beat It," right? And he was saying, Eddie Van Halen walked in, he did his thing, and like he knew what he wanted on every single part, and he was like really, really disciplined about it.
Yes, he was, and that's like when we were talking about that the whole time. That discipline, he had it. I mean, it was just. I mean, when he came in,
he grew up. I mean, when his young recordings, there's nothing like it. I mean, like every time I hear ABC, I'm like, this kid's like as good as it gets. Like unbelievable.
Yes. Yeah, the Jackson 5, and then you see how he just evolved, and his evolution was just so. It was like every song was like, wow, like that impactful. Like that, like him, even Madonna. Like I used to love listening to some of the Madonna tracks, and she innovated. Like I would tell people all the time, this innovation. Like she made songs that people were scared to talk about or things like that, and she executed them. And it was like that's genius.
Now, what do you think the future of rap may look like, and has COVID changed things a lot for you and for the industry?
Right now, I think, what they're trying to push music wise, I think rap wise, unfortunately, it's more of like just upbeat. They're not looking for anybody artists who aren't expendable. It's more like, okay, just get in here, talk about this and that, and keep moving. It's a lot of times they're getting artists that don't have anything already out. They're unknown. They're not too much talking about anything in depth. And it's sad because right now they're able to push that with social media. It makes it a little harder for independent artists because the majors can actually cut you out a little bit more because they can push on the same platform we're promoting on, and I mean, right now with the pandemic, it helps us a little bit more because we can like hone in on our skills. And again, like I said, everything's a digital world, so it's not hard to making tracks and putting it out. But I think that's our main roadblock. It's just getting our message out there and keeping it out there. And so it's right now, we have a lot of people that's doing the same thing we're doing, trying to promote this good message. But when you have a lot of masses and they're pushing it to them, it pushes us out, so it makes it harder to work.
So what can we expect to see from Emaculant in the months and years to come?
Definitely. Well, I'm pushing out a EP in this year, so I'm doing actually a single every month. So I have my next single is on the 30th, Undefeated. Working with Positivity Pays as well. I'm an influencer on there. So we have financial literacy classes at Dillard High School. We have a new line of shirts for Black History, Black History Month, Black History cards coming out as well. We actually did a few collaboration songs with Absolute. Who Do You Believe In? That's out already. Talking about social media, social injustice, things like that. So we actually have a lot of pretty jam packed this year, I would say.
That's fantastic that you're engaging with kids because we don't hear that from a lot of the artists. I mean, that's so important to get out there and to give to the next generation and to be a role model.
Yes, you have to. I mean, that was our whole thing. Like we've been working with an organization called Men to Boys, and there's a lot of kids that growing up without, their mothers or their fathers, and we try to work with them, try to show them like, maybe have career day and show them like there's more than music and being an athlete. You can be a executive chef, you can be a pilot. Like giving them insight. Talk to us, see what's going on with you. What are you dealing with? It's to us, you're supposed to do that. Like that should be automatic. You shouldn't ever have to get paid for it. You shouldn't have to worry about, being exalted from it. It should be just a debt into you. As you get older, you want to get back, so maybe they can skip some of those roadblocks that you went through.
Well, that's a beautiful thing, my friend. It's a beautiful thing, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, some of my favorite times were working in. I was the director of an opera company in Newark, and we'd go to the schools, and some of these kids, most of these kids had never heard it before, but there's some wonderful. I have so many colleagues in the music business whose way out was like you with sports, was like their way out with opera or with sports. I mean, there's a path for everyone, and to show the people to show people that there's hope and that there's light, and to get to that next level, it's a beautiful thing.
It is, and to me that's our job, because someone did that for us, when we were younger. So I mean, we're supposed to show them like, hey, you can do this. Maybe this is a way. Give you ideas. And to me, that's expected, I think, of anybody who's your elder in a sense.
Well, I wish you nothing but continued blessings in your work, and keep on putting out great music. And do you have anything lastly? How can people find out more about you and your art and your music? How can we find out more about Emaculant?
Definitely. Well, you can just Google Emaculant, as well as every social media, Instagram, Facebook, on all platforms. So Spotify, Dazzler, YouTube Music, iTunes, anywhere you can find the mainstream music, my music, the same notion as well. So, definitely, like I said, and as well as my partner, Absolute, same thing. Just Google the name. Again, we're trying to be advocates for changing the way music is thought of, and especially rap music, and trying to move it into the right direction, back to the right direction on being something positive.
Would love to have Absolute on the show too.
Definitely, yeah. I mean,
send it my way.
I definitely will. I definitely will.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and make sure you let us know when you have something coming out, and put it on the Music Matters channel. We want to put it out there, and we always want to support the best of every genre.
Well, I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and continued success. Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon. Our next show we have 3 shows tomorrow, so check them out on our website at www.jasontram.net. And remember, keep music alive.